Okay, folks, here we go. So, Bloodbrew.com here, Arne at the mic, as usually. Basically, yeah, I do acknowledge that I had a long break. Anyways, Eldritch Moon spoilers are up, and now we have something like about a third of the set or something like that. And this is my part one, so just covering all the cards that have been spoiled so far. I'm gonna cover them in terms of both limited and constructed. So buckle up. Basically, first we have this duo of like Bruno and Giza merging into a monstrosity. Basically, the big point about them is that they're fine cards on their own. For instance, Gisela, like a 4 mana flying first strike lifelink, okay, 4/3 is not like the best buddy. You would probably prefer it to be something like 3/4, or I don't know what, a 4/4 will be the best, I guess, for this price. And of course, the Brazilla, the main part about her is that the ability of the sort of can't even. They can't cast most of the removal spells to get rid of her, and this is the major thing. So they can raft the board, they can remove like all of things altogether, but most of the removals will be switched off. And Bruno actually fine on her own as well, basically. Um, Even though it's 7 mana, but she can bring an angel or a human from graveyard to the battlefield, not to hand but to play, and it has decent body on her own. All of that being said, I don't actually think that the card is like gonna be that absurd, and people will probably try it. It might be a good log for some decks, but you have to have both, and that's often a liability. So that might be a problem sometimes. Even though we got Giza and Geralt trying to push like the zombie theme, it still might be a reality because we still just have a third of the set spoiled. But so far we see a very big push for vampires and not for zombies, even though Giza and Geralt are quite fine. I don't know like how to pronounce it. It's like Giza, whatever. Probably somebody would know for sure. And yeah, it's a fine card. 4 mana, 4/4, but it's 2-colored. It's a legendary, so there is that. And then you mill yourself for 4. That's a like beneficial trigger. And then you get to cast a zombie every turn from your graveyard, which is quite nice. Just don't think like it's really setting up the scene for Zombies Tribe yet for standard. Tree of Perdition, and even though it might look kinda horrible and much worse than the green counterpart that we saw in the original Innistrad, but the big point here is that Tree's Catapult something, the 4 mana enchantment that triggers when somebody's at 13 life, so that's the biggest upside for that card and the biggest combo of that card. Probably not a competitive card, but people gonna have a lot of fun with it in other formats. I mean, in the not so competitive ones. The New Miracle is quite okay. I actually think it's kind of a balanced card because you don't get this Annihilator, you don't get protection from like spells, protection from instants still leaves a lot of loopholes for sorceries and stuff like that. So there is that. On the other hand, the actual card is cheaper because on average it will cost something like 9 to 10, I think, by the time you would actually want to cast it or be close to cast it. And then even though you take a turn away from them, but they get a turn back right after it. So some decks might actually undo all the dirty work that you would be doing with their deck and their board state, so there is that. Tamiya is actually something I like quite a bit, even though it's 3-color Planeswalkers, but it's in pretty good colors. Of course, right now the bans, what it means, it's like bans company or bans humans. Anyway, company decks, creature decks. But the mana bases are fine. You can actually more or less reliably cast her. Of course, she might be doing quite a bit more work in formats like Modern, where you would have Noble Hierarch or birds that could like easily not just ramp but reliably help you to hit all 3 colors by turn 3 to 4. I like all of her abilities. Basically, what people's been pointing out actually is that you can actually target their creatures if you just want card, and if you have some creatures to block, so it's not a big thing. But if you just don't want to attack, or you think, let's say, like you don't have any creatures, but their creatures are tiny, and they're probably gonna attack Tamio, but you want cards, you want to plus, you don't want to -2, so you can do that. So she gives like quite a bit of flexibility, and she defends herself because of the second ability to freeze for a turn a couple of their creatures, and the ultimate is just insane. And ultimate says that you would be like 3 turns away, so after you play her, that's like 3 more turns, and then turn 4 you have her in play, you'll get to ultimate. And I think like in the right deck, the ultimate is easily could be win the game like this very turn. Unlike with a lot of other ultimates, when it's like, yeah, you get a huge advantage, but even though your opponent probably lost, but then it's gonna take some turns, and then it might go into a draw. But with this ultimate, you might just like win the very same turn if you get to ultimate her. Right. Sacrifier of Souls is okay. I don't think it's a broken card. It's a very broken limited card, but not unconstructed. Nebulous of Frost obviously reminds a bunch of people about Dungeon Geist, but I actually like this more than Dungeon Geist because with some mana up, you can cast a spell and protect it from a lightning bolt, for example, because of the prowess, and then you get, even though you have to invest into the effect all the time, but you get to freeze multiple guys, so it's a much better tempo card. And Dungeon Geist was like also pretty good tempo card, but I think that this card in the right deck will certainly impact the game much better. And yeah, it poses some restrictions. You have to have like some instants and sorcerers lying around and have some in hand, but so be it. The mob is like okay. Basically, most of the time, you're what it means is that you pay 6 and you get most likely something like 3/3 and 2/2/2s, which is actually fine investment, I guess. Because then we probably gonna play a spell on their turn once you play this thing, and then maybe more than one spell, and then you're probably gonna play a spell next turn. So yeah, I think it's fun investment. Of course, it's no near the power level of Grave Titan or something, but Grave Titan was insane. And yeah, there obviously will be ways to put counters on it. I don't know, I suppose it's just like a balanced kind of Grave Titan. If Grave Titan will be kind of nerfed or fixed, and this is probably what it will look like. Assembled Alphas is just ridiculous card. It's gonna be insane and limited. Like, by insane I mean it's like if you can't answer it in the course of like couple turns, you're probably dead, because it's just gonna overtake the game unless you have like some great tricks, or you have flyers so you can potentially maybe erase it, or you have some ways to freeze it, things like that. But it's an absurd card. Like, it's single color, just easily first pick, I do like Wilbenwald Observer, pretty nice card. nothing broken, but in non-competitive formats will be insane, and actually in competitive formats as well. What actually the first thing that got into my mind was the combination of this card plus um, Wall of Omens, the one that draws you a card when it enters, and things like that. You can even play from the original Ravnica the 2/5 Wall for free that draws you a card. And like a bunch of creatures that can't trip or get value. Some other 1/4s perhaps that make them skip a combat phase. I think it's 1/4 or 1/5. The Rhino white 1/4 from, I don't know, one of the later core sets. Maybe like even just like M10 or M11. It could have been that a long time ago. And then you need the sacrifice outlet. Let's just say a pretty nice card. I hope it's not gonna break anything in standard, but I like it. The infiltrate is kinda like weird. Of course it reminds me about Ilkor from the Time Spiral block. But Skulk is not exactly Shadow. On the plus side, you can actually block with this thing. And most of the time, I guess you're gonna connect, and then it's like Luther, but with Luther Ilcord with an upside, which is quite decent, I guess. I guess it's worth a rare. I think this card is nice, but I'm not sure whether it exactly fits like in standard. It's probably not for modern, that's for sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if people will play it in standard. It's just not one of the cards that I think will shape the format in the coming weeks. This, on the other hand, is pretty insane. Collective Brutality. I think it's one of those cards that decks like vampires would really love, because this way you get, and a bunch of other decks, but I think something like zombies and vampires will actually benefit from this card the most, because vampires actually have a strong madness theme, so they would actually be very fine to discard card. And then the big point about Brutality is that it's a perfectly main deckable card. It gives you reach, it gives you some removal, it gives you some hand disruption, so it's kind of like what vampires or black aggro decks get instead of a Thoughtseize in the Ferris season. So it's perfectly deckable card with a bunch of options. It does have its price, like you need to discard some stuff, but yeah, like one of the cards that will actually make the vampires playable, I think. And this card just does most of the things that the vampire deck would want. Gives some like additional burst, like additional reach, can kill it, opposing blocker, and can clear it away from some mass removals or some well, not planeswalkers, but yeah, the vampires mostly care about like instant sorcery, so like mass removal. Of course they do care about like planeswalkers, but for the most part they just care so that all of their board is still there, so there is that. And of course you can do all those things at once if you discard a couple of cards. So yeah, one of the cards that really got me excited once I saw it, so I think it's just awesome. The Garrison is actually interesting. It basically couples up with the lands. For now, like, let's just remember what this thing does. Basically, 2/3 for free, okay, not very impressive, but then it acts as a sort of pseudo Goblin Rebel Master of the past, and then of course coupled with the red land. Well, it's technically colorless, but it has the red ability on it. It provides you a lot of haste in it, so 7 for trample haste is quite awesome. And then you have like a couple of small dudes attacking at the same time. So yeah, what this means is that something like maybe a red-white aggro could be a thing now. Well, let's just say that something very close to red-white humans, but maybe not exactly. Anyways, I think that humans basically are very happy to see this card because it synergizes with so many things in their deck. But I think to actually get a lot of value and to have the deck kind of be more resilient to mass removal and things like that, you'd probably want to actually couple it with the lands, but it's colorless, so it's really hard to justify it in the White Winnie humans deck. And then if you're going that route, you might as well go all the way to support also the other lands. Darn, I forgot the name of the card right now. Anyway, the other land that gives you a giant hasty dudes. Yeah, the Brimstone Valley. Or, well, no, not Valley. Wait, Abbey. So you want to play the Abbey as well, and then you probably want to play Secure the Ways while it's still legal in that deck. So kind of like red-white tokens. Basically, I think that because of this card, there we will see not just like red-white humans kind of staying in the metagame and still thriving, but also we would see red-white tokens, not just green-white tokens. The problem, of course, is that green gives you so many insane cards. So basically we would need more than just this guy to actually justify shifting away from green, because like Oath and Nisa and like Colligan's not Colligan, Jamoka's Command and all bunch of stuff, it's gonna be something special to make the shift. Emerald's Evangel is fine. Basically saves your team, but I would of course like much more prefer it to be more like Dauntless Escort, so it will just be sacrifice this dude and save your team or get those tokens. But the good part is that it's a decent body for 3 mana. It's flipped from Galactic Company. I don't know, I feel like it will be a fine one-off for Band Company decks to kind of like play around and see what's happening. Right below this, Eldritch Evolution is pretty crazy. People are getting really excited about it. And Modern with the Elvish Rider plus Iona on the second turn, both of the Mana Dark on turn 1. So yeah, could be pretty crazy. I'm mostly thinking about trying this out and see how it goes in a Modern Abzan Milira company and see what it does. Their new tally is pretty spicy, of course, but somehow I'm not like insanely excited about it. But it will actually secretly make White Winnie even like crazier deck, because now it's so hard to block anything. So that will be pretty crazy. So I'm pretty sure I will hate this card, even though like I'm not the guy like who will be excited about this card, but I will probably hate it. I hate to play against it a lot of the time. It will definitely be a staple in a lot of decks. It will definitely be a staple. And then you have a couple of vampires in the middle. Basically you have a new vampire lord, which is awesome. And discarding cards is kind of a bummer, but it's fine. It gives you an extra discard outlet, basically. So you would probably now not have to play the red one, the 2-drop that like 1/3, then it becomes like 3/1 when you discard. So now you don't have to play that. And then you're probably gonna play in the sideboard with that deck this little vampire. Basically it's 3/2 for free with Trample, Madness for 2 mana, and when it does damage to the player, you get to exile the top, so kind of and play it this turn. But you'll have to pay the mana, but your mana curve is supposed to be real cheap. I don't know, the fact that it has Madness for 2 is pretty awesome. I think like that's the factor that kind of like makes the card tick and makes it playable. Because you still have to pay for those cards. But yeah, because we don't have the 4 mana Chandra right now in the format. Yeah, and even though there is the 2-drop that lets you sometimes draw the cards if you're Hellbent, but this might probably be just better because Hellbent is a very situational thing. Even for a black-red slide type of rush deck. I think Lancers is fine. Not amazing for constructed, but quite okay. It's probably here in the set for the Commander players and Highlander and stuff. Identity Thief is okay, but not insane, so let's just say I'm probably not gonna pick it highly in limited and not even thinking how to break it in standard. But yeah, then Voldaren Spirai is another card that's gonna make vampires an actual thing. So basically for triple black at Madness cost, you get into play a free flyer, which is a decent deal. Kind of like Arrogant Worm type of thing, but yeah, now instead of going heavy on red sources for burn and barely just splashing black, now you have to switch back because of the Lord as well and go heavy black splash red. So now you probably can't really afford to play mountains, maybe just one, but maybe even that is kind of a pain because how much black you need in the early turns nowadays. And then we don't have really that many good 1-drops for 1 black, so a lot of good 1-drops are red, so I hope they're gonna solve that problem with cards later in the set. Harmless Suffering is just like cute and nice, nothing like breaking it up yet. This is a pretty interesting card, the Influence of Emrakul, but let's just say that only in very dedicated like limited decks. It's probably not a card for standards and for the ramp decks. Probably not there, too situational, and probably in limited you would think twice before considering to play it. Right beneath this to try it. Basically get a 1/1 Death Toucher for 1 green with an upside. So with Delirium it's actually a 3/3. So that's quite good, I think. That's like real good. This might actually be something eternal playable, I think. Not just like standard playable, but this might be actually eternal playable because there you have like still fetches, you have Detection Probes and the like. So yeah, something, so let's just say that some zoo decks will be fine with this card because fetch plus ball plus bubble or probe is already enough to, well, not exactly, well, that's 3 card types, but then, I don't know, a creature that dies to something, then that's the 4th card type in there, and then you have a 3/3 Death Toucher for 1 green, that's insane, so yeah. Pretty good card, really like it a lot. The Red Werewolf next to it is also a bonkers card, I think. When it transforms, it's even becoming more ridiculous. Reprinting Murder is fine, I think. Murderous Cut actually spoiled us quite a bit in the past season, but Murder was actually quite okay in many seasons. Just a nice option. You're never like super excited to see it. You would probably prefer something like Downfall or Ruinous Path, but we'll take what we get. Peace of Mind is essentially a like reprint, because there's been like a card like this before. It's fine. I like to have cards like this because they can be used later on, not just in standard, but also in some wacky modern decks like the basically mono white enduro ideal deck, or in some casual formats as well. Cox is crazy. Thank God it's not an instant and it's just a sorcery, but it's essentially a blue wish for Eldrazi. So yeah, a lot of people on forums actually think that this is gonna make blue Tron in modern super powerful, and then somebody might take it even to extremes, like playing Snapcasters and Dire Confidence in the same deck, because then all of your boom booms will be in the sideboard, things like that. But then again, you still want to play Karn, you still want to play Ugin, so I don't know. But Snapcaster as a 1 or 2 off is now becoming a pretty nice feature or option. Lone Rider, awesome. Especially in Soul Sister decks in Modern, of course. Might be actually playable if we get enough cards to support it in Standard. First right Cleflink is pretty gross, and then especially if you get to put counters on it for late Tenant and things like that. So Homunculus is probably just a wacky casual card, or well, it's not gonna be impact in Standard that much, but it does have some potential in Modern, I feel like. These 4 mana Vampire is just okay, it's nothing like ridiculous, but I think it basically adds up to being a very solid limited card. I'm not sure how insane it will be, probably just very good, and probably worth a first peek, I think, in some packs. But yeah, what will be defining a limited with Eldritch Moon is probably cards like this, the Building Pack Outcast, this Red Werewolf. Just a 4/4 trample for 5 with some useful abilities, so why not? Why not? Grapple with the Past is a nice utility card, so don't throw them away after the draft, so you might need them, or people will need them, or your teammates, etc. Cards like this are not gonna be, well, always unwanted, so, and they might be very wanted. It's not exactly Grizzly Salvage, but it's kinda close. I like the wording, I like the ability, so that you get to not just to pick the one of the top cards, but you can actually return something that's already been there before. Really excited about the Blessed Alliance. At worst, it's they sacrifice an attacking guy, and you have additional options for extra mana or just choosing a different thing. So yeah, I think it's one of the greatest uncommons in the set actually so far, because how flexible this card is, and it's actually okay in mid-range decks, in moderately aggressive decks, and in control decks as well. So very solid card. Grizzled Angler, awesome. Limited card, I think. Quite okay. The Wailing Gull is fine. Galvanic Bombardment. It's only kicks creatures, but it costs 1 mana. So yeah, and then think of this as just a replacement for Fury Impulse once the format rotates. That's basically what it is, I would say. It's like turn 1, kill a small guy, then kill slightly bigger guys. Captive is strange, it's just strange. I feel like it's okay, but not like something I would want to play. It still ramps, but they have this problem that it's defender, so I can't attack with it. Okay, it becomes a big guy that becomes a source of crawlers mana. It might be relevant. If that's actually quite relevant in the set, then perhaps it will be a much higher pick. At this point it's just okay. Another awesome like uncommon of the set is Unsubstantiate. Abstentuate, yeah. So it's kind of like a remand, it's kind of like a Venser. I think treat this more as just a fact from the Venser Shaper 7. So you get to bounce a creature, bounce a spell. Actually, Venser is still kind of better because it can bounce a permanent. It can bounce anything, which speaks to the power level of Venser. But yeah, this card is still good. It's an instant and it costs just 2, so you can snap it back in Eternal format. And I do actually like the one next to it, Long Road Home, so pretty fine combat trick as well. You can save your guy from a removal spell, or you can get through with your army for a turn, or you can just straight upgrade your creature with a 1 counter, things like that. So it's okay, I like tricks like this. It's probably not an insane constructed card, but it might slip into there. Getting back to Prey Upon is pretty nice. Well, we're losing Jamalka's command, so at least we get that, but it's sorcery, but it's 1 green, so non-white decks can play this type of effect. Then what else? A bunch of like very solid limited cards. Nothing so far seems to be terrible for limited. Everything seems okay so far, more or less. It's kind of sad to take inventory here. This blue spell for 2, well, it does remind a lot about accumulated knowledge from Invasion block, I believe. I'm not sure. I think it was before that even. Like Nemesis block or something like that. My memory betrays me because I didn't actually play with Psychotalk back then. I played it a lot against it, against friends, but not myself. Yeah, it's not an instant, it's sorcery, which makes the card significantly worse, but it might still be playable enough for standard, I'm not sure. Then we have a bunch of Emerge Eldrazi's, which are all like pretty awesome, I think. The green one, the mythic one, kind of impersonates corrupted Crater Hoof Behemoth. It's very dangerous to have this type of card in standard, I feel like, but it shakes things up, so in that regard I'm kinda excited to see it. And then, yeah, there could be like some weird combo decks coming up with some of those cards. Soul Separator is fun, it's actually a very flavorful, nicely designed card, but in limited it's probably quite good. Like, not ridiculously good, but quite good. It's just that it's slow and slightly situational. You have to have a big creature to get proper value out of it. Probably not a constructed card unless there will be some crazy synergies for it. But yeah, I think nobody will break the Separator in standard. Maybe just in modern, with something like cards that they 4 mana like sacrifice an artifact and get to colorless mana, something like this maybe. I don't know. There could be some combo hidden, but we don't have the full set just yet. Fragment is kinda crazy. I don't think I like it that much. On the other hand, it's a mana stone that gets you any mana, and it kinda can act as a win condition if you can sustain your life total or gain more than your opponent ever does to you. So when it flips, becomes a 1/4. Attacks, each opponent loses 3 and flying death dodge. And if you're upkeep with players, yeah. Actually, you know what? Well, I do think that it's gonna be quite a good one in limited, but it might actually do something in constructed because it's a mana stone that uh, tickles down opponent. Of course, it probably would be much better if it would actually say each player gains a life. I think that will be better because that's what you wanna like do when you're playing cards like this. You just want to stay alive. But yeah, both the multicolor card spoils so far are insane. Ulrich is, let's just say, it's somewhere between the power level of Huntsmaster and what else? Silverheart, the one that like with soulbound you get two big dudes bound together, etc. You know the card probably. Or you can fetch it up in the original instruct, or was it? No, it was in the Avacyn restored set. But yeah, Bloodhope Priest is insane. It's not just like you get to ping it once, it's like whenever it comes in or attacks, and with Madness for 3 mana you get it like at the 4/4, so 3 mana 4/4 at instant speed if you hit the turn 2 discard outlet and then like just pew pew, and now whenever it attacks you get to like, well, okay, if you have no cards in hand. Okay, so yeah, but still, come on. That deck is gonna dump the hand pretty damn quickly. And 3 mana 4/4 is instant speed, come on. Like, basically, think about it this way. Would you play something like a Loxodon Smiter in the Vampire's deck if the Smiter will be red-black? So the answer is probably yes. Although Smiter has other abilities which probably vampires will never get, like the get into play if they would have been discarded, or for instance if what was it? Smiter can't be countered, so there is that. For example, and those are very useful abilities for aggro decks against against control ones. Excuse me. So Handbearer is the land that synergizes with that free drop we saw later on, earlier on. Sorry. Okay, it's not legendary, so that's good. It gives colorless mana, not good, and I earlier actually explained why it's actually bad. It gives a creature haste, which is good. So yeah, like it could be more about like getting haste dudes or getting a bunch of tokens and get synergies from that. And then for 5 mana, yeah, if you have like both the land and that free drop, get to flip this thing and just smash for, what is it, 13? I think that's kind of a lot. And I actually like this other land, the Sanitarium. Okay, it gives only colorless, but that's fine, but then you're probably gonna just play a one-off. And I think it's fine in control decks or mid-range decks where you have good range of different answers, a lot of flexible cards that can provide you value. But yeah, probably you shouldn't play this in kind of streamlined decks. And for example, you might probably like still play it in a deck that has a lot of burn or haste dudes. If you're just digging for that final points of damage, or if you're playing a combo deck, which is tricky nowadays because then it's mostly talking about some aristocrats types of decks that really don't like playing a lot of colorless lands and really need all the actual colored mana. But yeah, I like the card. It's of course like not the lighthouse, but it's accessible so every deck can play it. But yeah, you have to be cautious about it. Okay folks, I hope you enjoy this. I'll see you with part 2. I hope you learned something new, and I'll see you guys next time, continuing this or doing some gameplay. So check out the channel, check out the website, and catch me on Twitch or like at your local store at Grand Prix, although I probably won't be traveling for a while now, because like I'm traveling around the Balkans now, and no GPs around here during the summer. I've been just to Prague a few weeks ago. Anyways, until the next sale, goodbye folks.